What's up, ladies and gentlemen? In today's video, I want to talk about whether or not the 2024 Honda Prologue all-wheel drive EX is a good lease deal or not. So right now you can lease this particular car for just $259 a month with just $2,999 due at signing. So if you're in the market for a 2024 Honda Prologue, I think you'll get a lot of value from this video. So what we'll do in the first part of this video is we'll head over to honda.com and we'll look at the national lease offer on this Honda Prologue, and we'll kind of dissect it in detail. We'll talk about the due at signing amount. We'll talk about who qualifies for the $259 payment. We'll talk about, the additional fees that you might have to pay, like registration fees, taxes. We'll cover everything that you need to know. Then in the second part of this video, what we're gonna do is run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Honda Prologue. And my 1.25% rule of leasing just showcases whether or not this Honda Prologue is a good lease deal in terms of value. And ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of a spoiler alert here. It is a tremendous value in terms of the monthly payment and the MSRP. And then in the third part of this video, what we'll do is we'll compare the monthly finance payments if you were to finance this car to the monthly lease payments, and I'll kind of showcase why leasing this particular car is a no-brainer. So if that sounds good to you, please be sure to like this video, and please be sure to follow or subscribe. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the computer behind me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on honda.com, and as you can see, I have the Prologue brought up. Let me actually just zoom this in a bit so it's easier for you guys to read, especially for those of you that are on your mobile devices. Now, as you can see here, there are 8 total offers on this Prologue. We have some finance offers, as you can see here, and we have a bunch of lease offers, as you can see here. Now, the lease offer that I want to focus on in this particular video is this 2024 Prologue all-wheel drive EX, which, as you can see, can be leased for $259 a month. It's a 36-month lease that requires $2,999 due at signing. Now, as you can see, this lease deal does expire at the end of the day, but I'm pretty sure that this lease deal will continue on into next month, and I wouldn't be surprised if this lease deal actually gets a bit better. Now, what we'll do is we'll actually click on details, and we'll get some additional information on this particular lease. Now, I'm going to click on read more here. Now, what you're going to see here is, the first thing actually I want to focus on is the $2,999 that's due at signing. Now, a lot of people go into a dealership and they think that this is all they're going to have to pay out of pocket. Like, you pay the $3,000 or the $2,999, and the dealer's just going to give you a monthly payment of $259 a month. And that simply isn't the way it works. This $2,999 is simply just a cash down payment. It's going towards the capitalized cost of the vehicle. It does not include the taxes that you'd have to pay on rebates. It doesn't include the registration fees, and it doesn't include some of the dealer documentation fees and things like that. So on a car like this, I would imagine you're probably looking at an additional $2,000 to $2,500 on top of this $3,000 that you see here. So you're looking more at like $5,000 to $5,500 due at signing. Now, when you are leasing this car, you want to put the least amount of money down as possible. So what you want to do is take that $5,000 or $5,500 and you want to roll as much of it into the lease as you can. Now, it will increase your monthly payment, but you're really not doing yourself any favors by putting a high down payment down. All you're doing is just prepaying for the lease, and God forbid if something happens to that car, a week after you drive it off the lot, it could be difficult to get some of that money, to recoup some of that money. So, I think you want to put the least amount of money down as possible. I'd be comfortable putting $2,000 down, like putting the first month's payment, maybe registration, taxes down, but you definitely don't want to put $5,000 or $6,000 down. I think $3,000 or under is okay. Anything over $3,000, you need to question it a little bit, but definitely not putting $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 down. Now, another thing that I want you to realize here is that this lease allows for 10,000 miles a year. Now, if you drive 12 or 15,000 miles a year and the 10,000 is just not going to get it, don't get a 10,000 mile a year lease. Get a 12 or 15,000 mile a year lease up front. Otherwise, as you can see here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. As you can see down here, you're going to have to pay 20 cents a mile for every mile you drive over 10,000 miles a year. And that's really expensive. So you don't want to pay 20 cents a mile. If you pay, or if you get a 12 or a 15,000 mile a year lease up front, you're going to pay way less than 20 cents a mile to get that additional mileage. Now, what you're going to see here is with this particular lease deal, it's available to current owners of any 2014 or newer Honda, Buick, Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Fisker, Ford, GMC, Hyundai, Jeep, Kia, Mazda, Mini, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Polestar, Ram, Scion, Subaru, Tesla, Toyota, VinFast, and Volkswagen. Now, this is sort of a conquest rebate, and a conquest rebate means that anytime you own, a Honda product or a competitor's product, you qualify for a conquest rebate. And it doesn't have to be you that owns this car. It could be your wife. It could be anybody in your household, and you would get the conquest rebate. Now, I don't know what the conquest reward is. Actually, it says right here it's $1,000. So if you don't have any of these cars, you won't get the $1,000, and you wouldn't qualify for this lease deal as it's written here. You would, however, still get a great lease deal. You just wouldn't qualify for this lease deal. Your lease deal would look more like this one right here, which doesn't include conquest, which is $289 a month with the same $2,999 due at signing. So your monthly payment increases about $30 a month. Still a great deal, but that is something that you should be, you should know. But I think for most people, either they or someone in their household owns one of these brands. So that's why I'm going with the conquest here. Now you'll see that this particular lease deal is available for residents of the following states. Now, just because your state isn't listed doesn't mean that you're not getting the same deal. You might actually be getting a better deal in other parts of the country, but this deal as written is available for residents of these particular states. Now, what you're going to see here is this car has an MSRP of a whopping $51,795. And you'll see that this includes destination, but it excludes tax, title, license, registration, options, and insurance. And you're also going to see that you have the option to purchase this car at lease end for $26,415. Now, a lot of people on the internet say that, hey, don't lease a car because you're just renting a car. But leasing is very different than renting a car, because with leasing, you get an options contract, and your options contract says you can buy this car at the end of the lease for $26,415. So what you want to do is at the end of the lease term, or as your lease approaches its end date, maybe a month before, you want to see what this vehicle is worth. So if your vehicle is worth more than $26,415, that means you have positive equity. And that means you shouldn't just turn this car back in. What you want to do is realize that positive equity. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can realize that positive equity, and I have a video on it on my page, on my YouTube page, which you can kind of really gets into the nitty-gritty. But one of the options is you could sell this car back to a Honda dealership for more than $26,415 and take a cashier's check home for the difference. The second thing you could do is maybe trade in this car for another Honda and take that equity and roll it into your next lease. Maybe use it towards your down payment. So there's definitely ways to realize that positive equity. And if you don't have positive equity, like if your car is worth, let's say $20,415, well, then, ladies and gentlemen, just simply turn it back in. And that's the beauty with leasing. You don't really have positive or negative equity at any time. And if you have positive equity, you can realize it. If you have negative equity, you don't need to realize it. You can simply turn the car back in. And that's the beauty of leasing. Now, I think I covered most of the details that I wanted to cover. Oh, another thing that I did want to mention is just because this is a national lease offer, a lot of dealers are going to tell you, hey, we can't do this. We can't match this lease deal. But a lot of dealers are going to tell you, are going to be able to beat this lease deal. So anytime I see a lease deal like this, in general, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get better terms than what I see here. So I'm trying to get better terms than $259 a month with $2,999 due at signing on a car, with an MSRP of $51,795. So that's just a little rule of thumb that I like to use, is I'm always trying to beat this lease deal anytime I see a national lease offer like this one. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move quickly to the next section of this video, and I want to run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Honda Prologue. Now, my 1.25% rule of leasing is just a value metric. So what I do is I run this calculation, and if I get a number under 1.5% at the end of the calculation, that's a good lease deal. If I get a number under 1.25%, that's a great lease deal. And if I get a number under 1%, that's an amazing lease deal. So let's go ahead and run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Honda Prologue. Now, what we're going to do is take the $2,999 that's due at signing. We'll subtract the monthly payment of $259. Since that's included in the due at signing amount, we'll divide this by 36. since this is a 36-month lease, and that gives us $76. Now what I'm going to do is add the $259 back in. That gives me a monthly payment before sales tax of $335. Now here in the state of Washington and in most states in the union, you're going to have sales tax on this payment. And here you're looking at about 1.1% here in the city of Seattle. So I'll multiply this by 1.1 to account for 10% sales tax. And that gives me a zero down monthly payment of $368 a month. And if I divide this by this vehicle's MSRP, which is $51,795, so let's divide this by $51,795. I'll multiply this by 100 to convert it into a percentage. I get 0.71%. So remember when I said anything under 1% is an amazing lease deal? Well, this Honda Prologue is a spectacular lease deal. It's not even an amazing lease deal. It's way under 1%. It's 0.71%. So ladies and gentlemen, this is an incredible lease deal. And even if, you probably noticed that I didn't include registration taxes and fees. So let's go ahead and do this and account for registration taxes and fees. Let's take that $2,999 that's due at signing. Let's add another $2,500 to account for taxes on rebates, registration, any other dealer documentation fees, etc. That gives us $54.99. Let's subtract the monthly payment of $259 from that amount. We'll divide this by 36, and then we'll add the monthly payment of $259 back in. We'll multiply this by 1.1 to account for 10% sales tax. And if I divide this by the vehicle's MSRP, which is $51,795, multiply this by 100, you're still looking at 0.85 or about 0.86% if you round up, which is still an outstanding lease deal. And like I said before, you want to try to beat this 0.85, 0.86%, right? Use this national lease offer. In most cases, I don't want to say it's true for every national lease offer, but in most cases, you want to use this as your baseline and then try to see how far you can get down. Don't just work with one dealership, maybe go to different dealerships. Don't be afraid to venture outside of your geographic area to get yourself a good lease deal. Now, what I want to do in this part of the video is look at your monthly payment if you were to finance this car. Now, let's use the auto price, the selling price of $51,795, which is the MSRP on this vehicle. Let's actually zoom in a little bit. Now, the loan term, I'm going to use 72 months. I'm going to use an interest rate of 0.9% because right here you'll see that is the offer from Honda. It is 0.9% for 60 months. So let's go ahead and do this for 72 months. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. We're going to do no down payment, no trade-ins, state of Washington, 10% sales tax rate, and we'll roll in $2,500 of registration, title, and other fees. And when I hit calculate, you get a monthly payment, an effective monthly payment, assuming $0 down, of $848 a month. And my monthly lease payment, my effective monthly lease payment, is just $445 a month. And that's assuming all registration, taxes, everything rolled in, is $445 a month. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's a difference of $400 a month. It's a difference of $4,800 a year. So you can see the savings that you get when you lease this particular car. Now, one of the big factors why leasing makes a lot of sense as well is the $7,500 EV tax credit. When you buy this car, you don't get the $7,500 EV tax credit, but when you lease it, you do get the $7,500 EV tax credit. And when you lease this car, you get that $7,500 EV tax credit regardless of your income. So even if this car, you could get the $7,500 credit on the financing option like you can for Teslas, it doesn't necessarily mean you would get it. There's a lot of other variables like your income, where the battery parts are made, where the materials are coming from. But with Honda, you get with this particular car, you get the $7,500 credit regardless of circumstances if you lease it. Now, a lot of people are going to say, hey, Ravi, but nobody's paying MSRP for this car. Well, okay, let's go ahead and discount it $10,000. Let's use a selling price of $41,795. And you'll see the monthly payment is still $691 a month. You could even, let's just go to $35,795. And your monthly payment is still $597 a month versus leasing this car at $445 a month. So you're still saving about $150 a month. And this is with a discount, a substantial discount of what I do discount $16,000. And this is just a lease deal that's written on the Honda website. So if you negotiated this, you could probably get this monthly payment down even further. Or maybe you could get 12 or 15,000 miles a year for this $445 a month. And another thing that you want to consider is that this is an electric vehicle. So a lot of people don't factor in the gas savings, especially if you have a level 2 charging at home, or if you have level 2 charging at home, which I do recommend, by the way. Like, you need 240 volts at home if you're going to own an electric vehicle. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself at public charging stations and you're going to be spending a lot of time, wasting a lot of time. And if you don't have free EV charging, you're going to be wasting a lot of money. It's really, really cheap to charge at home. And then you wake up every day with 100% battery. That's the key to owning an electric vehicle. And your monthly expenses to operate this car are probably going to be like $40 to $60 a month. And if this were a gas-powered vehicle, you're probably looking at about $150 to $200 a month. So that's an additional $100 to $150 a month that you could save, depending on where you live and how much you drive, of course. But that's definitely an additional savings that you should factor in. On top of that, no oil changes. Like, EVs don't really need any maintenance. So you save a lot of money there as well. But if you have any questions about this lease deal, let me know in the comments section below. And if you guys haven't already, please check out drivematch.com. It's a website, a company that I co-founded, where you get pre-negotiated lease deals, so you don't even have to bother with the dealership. And we have some incredible lease deals all over the country on drivematch.com. But with that, I'm going to call it a video. Thank you all for watching. Financial knowledge is power. Please like and follow for more.